Well, good afternoon and happy Wednesday. I'm Joyce Donaldson, Chief Operating Officer and the Carpentry Liaison of the newly merged Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce. We're super excited to have you all here today. We're super excited about our speaker, and we're really proud to be able to offer this information in a really timely way. So we wanted to just give a brief update today so that we could update you on all that's happening, because there's a lot happening, as you all know, and it's happening so quickly. So thank you, Nancy, for joining us today. I also want to give a big shout out to our Santa Barbara County executives for partnering with us to bring this to all of our members in Santa Barbara County for this webinar today. So big shout out to Tracy from the Solvang Chamber, Kathy from the Buellton Chamber, Amber from the Lompoc Chamber, Linda from the Santa Ynez Chamber, of course, the CEO of the new Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce, Kristen Miller, and Glenn from the Santa Maria Chamber. And now I'm going to turn it over to Glenn to introduce Nancy. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce, and good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Chambers of Commerce for Santa Barbara County, we're pleased to be able to, again, share with you some new information and make sure that that the information that you're getting is accurate, comes from reliable sources, and is current. That's been our commitment all along. We recognize that sometimes it can feel like there's a fire hose of data coming at you, and sometimes it's difficult to know which of it is useful and what's not. So collectively, your Chambers of Commerce have been very focused from the beginning of this season in really trying to make sure that we provide you actionable information that is, again, current, relevant, and accurate. So as you already know, the state of California last week changed their protocol, their format for monitoring and assessing the counties and assigning, permissions, if you will, to different groups of businesses based on our county status. We have asked Nancy Anderson, who's the Assistant County Executive Officer, to help kind of localize that information and bring it home here in Santa Barbara County, help us understand what the new protocol looks like and how it plays out for us here in Santa Barbara County. So I would just point out from a logistics standpoint, you are all in listen mode. If you do have questions, we encourage you to submit them using the Q&A feature here in the Zoom platform. And we will be addressing as many of those as we can after Nancy's presentation. This program is being recorded today, and the recording and responses to the Q&A will be posted on your local chamber's website in the next day or so as the files are ready to go. So with that, Nancy, welcome again. You're becoming a regular for us here in the chamber communication world. We appreciate your willingness to be transparent and available and to be helpful to our businesses as they try to understand what all of this means in terms of driving our local economy. So Nancy, thanks again for being here, and look forward to your presentation.
Hey, thanks, Glenn, for having me. It gives us an opportunity to share what we can about the changes coming down from the state. As many are aware, last Friday, the state announced that they had some pretty significant changes to how we're evaluating moving forward, both from a public health data information perspective and also a sector, an industry sector perspective. So let me open up my screen here and start with this. We presented to our board, both Public Health Department and the County Executive Office yesterday, to update the board in regard to this new blueprint for a safer economy, which is what the state is calling their new tier framework. This picture here was presented yesterday by our Public Health Department. This is the state's previous table that we were all focused on determining how Santa Barbara County is at what level they are on the monitoring metrics at the state. This is no longer what the state is using as of yesterday. So the new framework, it's a tiered perspective on a 7-day average and 7-day lag of new cases per 100,000 population per day and testing percentage positivity. These are two things that they've looked at before, but the way they're coming up with the number is a little bit different. And they also segregated it into tiers. Depending on each county's number, tells you what tier you are in. The most widespread is tier 1, and that is the purple categories. Tier 2 is red, substantial, moderate, tier 3, and then minimal, tier 4. And this is how they're assessing risk from a high to a low possibility of community disease transmission. So this is the categories of which each county is going to essentially be assessed. We are currently under the purple tier, and we'll go into that just a little bit more here. In addition to that framework, they've also added an adjustment factor, and this actually just got posted today. So what they are doing is giving essentially some discount or credit to counties that have a testing rate per 100,000 population of certain levels. So they're really encouraging counties to promote the testing and getting it out throughout the community. And if you do that, you're allowed some discount factoring to the case rate number. And so here's the rules essentially for the framework. They gave us our first assessment yesterday at the level of purple, tier 1 for County of Santa Barbara. The next weekly assessment is going to be, or what they're calling their first assessment, is going to be September 8th. You have to remain in a tier for a minimum of 3 weeks before advancing. And you can only move one tier at a time. So it doesn't matter if you've got an orange or yellow metrics for any given week. You cannot move beyond the tier that you're in or the next level. You have to, if over a 3-week period, the county falls under 2 different tiers, the more restrictive tier is assigned. It's a little different for this first initial setup. I think they're getting a little bit organized and still working out some of the dynamics of how they're handling this. But for what they announced on the 28th and made effective yesterday or actually the 31st, which is Monday, the tier assignment is based on adjusted case rate and test positivity, and that was the first table that was shown. Prior to the 2 reporting periods. The tier status effective August 31st is essentially our baseline. If a county is initially assigned to the purple tier, which we were, and has met the criteria for a less restricted tier the prior week, the county only needs to meet the criteria for a less restricted tier for 1 more week. So essentially, if we were in, if we had been assigned red, we do have to have that for at least 2 weeks before we could move forward. But they're making this this category or this first time putting it out there with the August 31st date only 2 weeks instead of the 3. The next assessment's the 9/8 assessment date, and as indicated, you don't need to remain in the purple tier for 3 weeks. So some may qualify to move to red tier with only 2 weeks. All subsequent assessments that'll change after this 9/8 weekly numbers that they put out, you have to remain in a tier for 3 weeks to advance, no exceptions on that. So how do you advance? Starting with the 9/8 weekly numbers that we get, you must be in a current tier for a minimum of 3 weeks before advancing. You have to meet criteria for next tier for both measures, not just one of them, but both for the prior 2 consecutive weeks in order to progress to the next tier. So it can't be, if you're looking at 3 weeks, you've got to have at least 2 in a row that are indicating that you're moving to the next tier. Additional measures are being developed. They don't have these out yet, but we hear they're coming, and they are associated to health equity and health outcomes. So I'm not sure what those are going to look like yet. In addition to being able to advance, they're indicating that they can also move you back. So if a county's adjusted rate or test positivity has been within a more restrictive tier for 2 consecutive weekly periods, it works the same as advancing, and they'll just move you back and revert you to the more restrictive tier. They are, however, giving you 3 days to implement any sector changes or closures unless extreme circumstances merit immediate action. I know that's one of the issues that's come up in the past where literally within a day people are having to change their work environment and notify employees in that respect. So they are giving 3 days to give any kind of notice on that. And of course, they're indicating as needed, the state and county public health officials may work to determine the targeted interventions and what needs to be done in order to address and change some of those impacts, both from a hospital capacity, which used to be on the one of our main concerns and still continues to be for our public health officer, but not necessarily for the state's analysis related to the industry sector changes. So on the website, and we'll show you where that is in just a minute, they have this map of all of the counties within the state of California, and you can click on each county and it brings up the metrics for that particular county. So currently, and this was presented yesterday by our public health department, Santa Barbara, as of their 8/31, this is week ending information for August 18th, because they're in a lag time for this, was a 9 on the COVID-19 positivity cases per 100,000 and a 6.5 positivity rate. That puts us in the purple. We're actually in red for the positivity rate, but for the cases per 100,000, we're above the greater than 7. It puts you in the purple category, so we are purple widespread. So then, as indicated, the first weekly assessment that they're going to essentially start the process with is 9/8, so that'll be next Tuesday. And here's what the information that they are putting out on their website currently. The grade, first 2 rows that are grade for August 11th and August 18th, those are the week ending that they took the information for the 8/31 or Monday's base, essentially, tier level that was given out to the counties. So for our case rate, we were at 12.4 for the week ending August 11th, and then for August 18th, we were at 9, putting us in the purple categories. Because we didn't have the testing, and I did put the testing over here in the test per 100 excluding prisons at 214.9 and the 213.4. Those are below what they're, I think 241 is where you first get some type of discount on the case rate. So we didn't qualify for that. So that's why our numbers are equal to what our case rate per 100,000 number was for the county. But if you would look at the, if you go online and look at the other counties, there are some that had extremely high testing, and their rates would have been lower because they were a discount was applied for that. And sometimes that can be enough to put you in a different tier level. For us, however, we're in purple level, and for the testing positivity, our numbers are going down actually. So we are in the next tier, which would be tier 2 or tier red level. So we're doing good on the testing positivity, but we do need to continue to lower the case rate per 100,000 to move us forward to a red tier. So what they're indicating is essentially the 9/8 data week will be based on September 1st ending numbers. So we don't know what those are yet. They're going to put those out. Then we would anticipate that the September 8 week ending will be announced on September 15th. So they're about a week lag time. At least that's what we understand today. Of the information that they're going to be putting out. So on September 8th, we'll know that because we've had purple, we would need to be in red for 2 weeks. So if we move to tier red as just a hypothetical, on September 9th. Then we would have to wait till the September 15th data to be available to know if we have 2 weeks starting out on the red tier. You'd have to have at least 2 weeks out of a 3-week period in order to move to that tier as indicated in their rules. So we would have to be at 2 weeks of tier red status in order to actually be able to activate any of the tier level openings. So with us being at tier 1, the public health officer did issue health officer order 12.7 on Monday to allow for hair salons and barbershops to open indoors with modifications. This was a big change. They were outdoors like many of our other sectors as of July. So those throughout all the tiers will be able to be open indoors with modifications. They did also identify that all retail can open indoors with modifications at a max of 25% capacity. Shopping malls can open indoors with modifications also at 25% capacity, but closed common areas and closed food courts. And again, the next weekly assessment for the tier change is September 8th. So here we come to the state website, and we're all just going to have to get a little bit more comfortable. They seem to be changing it daily with some additional information, I think, based on questions coming from businesses and the county folks as well. But here's what it looks like. If you go to the first main screen, it brings you here. It's nice because you can enter your county information and your business activity. If you just enter the county information, it'll list all of the businesses or activities right underneath there. You don't have to actually pick the activity, but if you just wanted to go to your particular business, you could. And it's really in more detail than some of our guidance. Our guidance is based in, for example, we have the personal care services. It covers several business type sectors like nails, massage, and those types of things. Whereas this kind of breaks out, their list is a little bit more detailed, and it'll take you to that sector guidance is applicable to that particular type of business. So that's kind of nice that they were able to add that in there. And this is just an example, I put in the Santa Barbara County and just pick the first one, auto repair shops. And down here I circled at the bottom is where they're indicating what the status is. So it's Santa Barbara counties in purple, widespread. And for this particular sector, they can open with modifications, and it gives you the ability to go directly to the industry guidance on this. So that's kind of a nice feature for this. However, they also have another link, and it's you do have to go within some of the information to get to it. But I think it's also very valuable for the sectors, and I would suggest that you would take a look at this matrix. It's about 5 pages and includes all the sectors that the guidance is out there for. And it tells you if we're in purple tier 1, what that means to you, if you're in tier 2, what it means to you, if you're in tier 3 or 4, just so you have an outlook. It does not, I will tell you though, it does not have any of the sectors that don't have guidance yet. So any of our festivals or any of the big type of venues that have not had live theater was one of them as well. If you have not had guidance issued out for your sector yet, it's not going to be here. So until that happens, just so you know, it's not going to be on this list. But it's a good one if you're just you're a personal care services sector and you want to know, okay, when I get to tier 2, how does that affect me? This is a good table to go to, also on the website. And I'll back up one, just on this particular screens that they're showing, it doesn't show you the future state. So it only tells you what currently is the status. So that's why it's kind of nice to be able to have this matrix to refer to if you're wondering if we're getting close to moving to tier 2 or tier 3, how that impacts you. All of this we've linked and applied through our RISE information and the reopening process. And as you are reopening, while if you've already attested, you don't need to attest again. Part of attesting you've agreed to and kind of made a promise towards keeping up to date on what the state guidance is. So you just need to kind of be referring back here or checking on the state website, because it's all the information would be the same, that you're keeping up to date on the changes that the state is putting out, and making a concerted effort to make sure that you're following the most current guidelines. And they do update and change depending on what they are putting out through the state. So just make sure that you're rechecking on either our RISE site or the state website directly in order to make sure you're keeping up to date. And this is just kind of information that we do provide to our board. As of last Friday, we actually have over 4,000 businesses that have submitted countywide. Important thing on this too, there's a lot of grants at both cities, and we just finished one as well for small businesses that have attested through the the RISE process specifically. So it's good to be a part of this process. I can get a little bit of a bonus there if you're looking to apply for some of these grants that we're putting out. And here's our main sectors have continued to be dining restaurants, retail, and office workspaces. So some good information that we try to keep track of. We do have a program that's been quite popular, and it seems to be expanding both within our areas and the cities, is this RISE Ambassadors. If you have a question, you're a business and are seeking some information, I know that one of the questions that we got kind of in advance is our number changed, and that's true. But we did add a new number for the RISE Ambassadors and just made that public. So it's available here. They've also added a direct email to the RISE Ambassadors that is this RISE Ambassador at countyofsb.org. And feel free to reach out to them, and they can get you connected to, if they can't answer it or provide the resource, they'll get you in touch with someone. But they've been a big help in getting information out to both our community and our businesses, and letting them know about the self-certification process, and making sure that they know where our resources are, because there are quite a bit that are available for the businesses. And I'll just leave it at here's a bunch of our different resources. I just talked about the RISE Ambassadors, but also, and I feel badly because I haven't mentioned them, but they've been amazing about getting back to businesses, is our environmental health services department at ehsadmin@sbcphd.org. They usually will get back to you within the same day. They have direct access to the public health officer, so that if there's any gray area questions related to your business, they're able to get answers out to you fairly quickly, and directly from how the health department is looking at some of these things that aren't always easy to discern. So with that, I know we've got a few questions, so let me stop sharing. And I'm happy to answer them.
Awesome. Well, my name is Courtney Rental. I'm the Chief Development Officer of the Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce. And please feel free to start submitting any questions you have through the Q&A platform here on Zoom. But I'm getting a few in, and we have some via email. So to start with, I think we have some in the chat. Okay, someone's saying, I'm still confused by what to expect on 9/8 and what it could mean for how quickly we can move into the red tier. So is it safe to assume that we'll still be in purple as of 9/8? And if so, we're in it for a minimum of 3 weeks?
So very good question. And so my understanding is that yes, so that we have to be, before you can move, you have to be for in a particular tier for at least 2 weeks out of a 3-week review period. So we would have to be in red for at least 2 weeks. So really I'm sorry, looking at my calendar, 9/22 would be the first time if we have received, we're at the tier 2 level for those 2 weeks prior to that, and on September 22nd, we got another tier 2, then we'd be able to move everybody up. So, so pretty much at this point, we're looking at the end of September before we would know, and that all depends on what our numbers are over the next 2 weeks.
Okay, another quick question. When will the state data be updated to show the results for Santa Barbara County for the week ending in 8/25?
So I don't know that they're going to post that. My understanding is they're using the week ending of September 1st for the 9/8 presentation. So until we get to within the next week or so, I don't even know if they're going to post that information based on what they've indicated, but we'll have to wait and see. At this point, they haven't told us.
Okay. How long do businesses need to keep their attestation forms posted? Do they still need to be up in Windows?
Yes. So that's a good question. So you should have a checklist and the print out that nice form that we put out towards the end of the process of yes, we're open and qualified essentially. But you'll want to post those until this whole process is over. So that's a continuous attestation process until COVID-19 is complete. So yeah, that's a good question, but you want to keep those up.
Okay. Some other questions that have been emailed. It appeared that some counties are pushing back against the governor's tiers as being a little bit too broad-based and restrictive. Are there any steps our county is taking to push back and get a more realistic set of guidelines for Santa Barbara County?
Not that I'm aware of, but I will tell you, it's the county's public health folks are talking to the state public health folks literally daily. I know they got off a call this morning. More information was added based on, I think, questions coming from the county representatives across the state. I think adding to clarification. So hopefully that will resolve some of the issues that maybe some of the counties are having. It's just, this whole process from the beginning has been somewhat of a challenge. And I think they're attempting to at least give, a walkthrough of what it would look like over a period of time, so that there's a timing element of notification, essentially, from at least the business industry sectors, where you wouldn't know from one day to the next what was going to throw the state to changing what sector impacts are going to be had. So at least this kind of solidifies where and gives some warning to businesses on how they're going to be impacted. I guess even though it is more complicated, and we are trying to still kind of digest some of this so that we can get it out in a more succinct fashion. That seems what we're always kind of we're not finding out until the public finds out that this is happening. So, we're turning it around as quickly as we can. But I really do think that they're attempting to try to address some of and clarify some of the things that are coming out of the counties over the past couple of days.
Okay, we have a question somewhat related to that. We're wondering what some of these current restrictions are based on, and if there's a science behind the decision. For instance, hair salons have long been regulated for cleanliness and safety, and they were just allowed to open, and it wasn't really clear why they were allowed to open aside from advocacy, and we just weren't sure if spas, other therapeutic massages, people's personal services with one-on-one service might be able to open before the tiers allow, and if there's any science behind this decision.
No, that's come up though, and I suspect I do know, because we heard about it, was that there was a lot of advocacy at the state level. That it's not at the county level that these decisions are being made; it is at the state level. I know personal care services, which includes nail salons, which are closely related often to hair salons. I have reached out to me, and I don't know, you know, we haven't heard anything other than what we're seeing on the matrix right now, which tells them, you know, the capacity at which they can take on and when they can open. So, but I think that the hair salon and barbershop folks really got some activity at the state level, and we're listened to at some point.
Someone's asking how reliable the data is from the state, and that the map showed Santa Barbara County as the only one in purple, but I think you were just highlighting Santa Barbara County. I believe 87% of California is in purple, right?
Yeah, that's correct. No, that's right off the state website. So I think when you click on a county, it brings that out in a darker color. But yeah, no, there's many where we are with most of the other counties on this. And it's starting out, that makes sense, because I think they're just getting organized into getting what the numbers are for each county. And there were counties that were advanced all the way through getting off of the monitoring list even before this came up. So I know that there's movement, but yeah, we're with many other counties starting out.
Okay. Do you have any inclination on when swimming pools in the county might be able to open or have more than one person per lane?
I don't offhand, but I can put that through to our public health department and you know, see if that's where that exactly falls for them. We do have gyms and fitness centers, like for that'll open up at a certain percentage when you move to red tier and beyond. So, but I know that our public health order, I think, specifically addresses pools, spas, and those types of things. So, yeah, good question. We can find out.
Okay, and when restaurants are allowed to open at 25% inside, can they also continue to do outside dining?
Yes, so that's another good question. So yeah, it's an opportunity to really expand and get into, you want to keep going with your outside because that's what's definitely allowed, but it's an opportunity to expand. So definitely yes.
Did it say at what tier schools would open?
Okay, so schools are a little unique. They're under a waiver system right now under the purple, but if they move to if we get to a point where we're on tier 2 or red for 2 weeks, then that changes the dynamics and allows for more opening. And I know that our public health department is working very closely with the schools, so to determine what that looks like and making sure that they are ready and prepared before anything moves for them.
Okay, do you know how much tax revenue the county or cities have lost since the shutdown began in March, or is there somewhere that information is available?
I think it's definitely being tracked both between cities and counties, and you have to check with those respective jurisdiction. Most of the tax that we have seen reduced is either between a sales tax or our TOT, so transient occupancy tax, due to the hotels being less. So that, I know that is impact the county significantly, and I know that the cities have been as well, but I don't know their numbers offhand.
Okay. Okay. Okay, the hotel and lodging industry modifications do not address group or event or weddings in their tiers. The convention center industry notes closed, but does not have a document showing the modification progression by tier. Where would we look for this information for accuracy and guidance?
Yes, so gatherings and the definitions on those is addressed in the health officer order, you know, I don't know at what point the health officer will be changing the status right now. One, because we're in purple, it's a widespread concern for us. We're trying to avoid gathering at all, essentially. So, but where you'd want to be paying attention to that is anytime the health officer order issues a health officer order. he addresses specifically gatherings there.
Okay, and second to that, if we have to be in each tier for a minimum of 3 weeks, would you say we're looking at November before we can even start to think about events and groups, or is that?
You know, it all depends on the numbers. Ours are going down, but it's really important to be vigilant. Everybody has to do their part. Wearing the face covering, washing your hands, and doing that because it's made a difference. There's been a lot of campaigns pushing that. I think there's areas, especially in North County, that have seen such improvement just because of those things. So. It's very possible that if we're all really vigilant about doing that, limiting, the gatherings and those types of things, you can get there. We just have to be, it's important to be continuing to do those things.
Okay. Is the county tracking the number of businesses that are failing or closing?
Our Workforce Development Board actually does, they get warn notices when they're going to be laying off and those types of things. I don't know to what extent, but we do get updates in regard to unemployment numbers and how many businesses have submitted warn notices.
Okay. Are there resources available if you manage a multifamily apartment community and have a pool and fitness center to reopen?
That's a good question. We would have to evaluate that. That's a good one to send to our EHS admin email, because they'll be able to kind of evaluate where that's at, what type of business it is, and give you a direct answer. But those are the kind of questions that we typically would refer to them.
Great. And we did get a variety of questions centered around cities putting in their own waiver or separating themselves from the county. We talked about this a bit briefly before we began. I believe Nancy would say that the state is looking at the county as a whole. Did you have anything to add to that?
No, that's essentially it. They don't break it out. Now, our public health department tracks numbers and those types of things, and are trying to get to the same metric composition that the state has now gone to, because it's now, some of the reporting numbers are different. So now public health is having to kind of pause, readjust some of their information that's at a more granular level. So it does take into consideration different communities within Santa Barbara. So we will be able to track it from that perspective. But from the state perspective, they look at a county as a whole. Now, they did give us, they don't include the prison numbers, which is important for us because we did have a big outbreak in Lompoc. But from our smaller communities, that's not what they look at.
Okay. Any news on indoor museums opening?
So indoor museums would be, they should, when we go to tier 2, should be at a 25% max capacity. So just follow the matrix for that. You'd be able to go right to it, and it'll tell you exactly where you're able to be at, depending on the tier.
Okay. Is there a destination where we can start seeing more information about hospitalization and mortality rates?
The best place to go is to the public health website, where they're posting all that data literally on a daily basis. So I would suggest going there. They have many tables that they're updating daily.
Someone asked what agency is enforcing these current regulations, and are they going into businesses and hotels, and what are the penalties?
So it depends on the type of business or the jurisdiction that it's in, because sometimes city has certain businesses that they're responsible for versus county, and then like all of county restaurants are covered by our county EHS. So it depends. Yes, they are. I know our county EHS folks are making rounds. I know that that multiple agencies are doing the same code compliance, depending on the issue. One thing that we typically, I have a slide for put with the board members, is that we, on our recoverysbc.org website, you can report violations, and that will go to the respective agency that handles the compliance for that type of business. So if you're aware of one, you can just fill it out, and they'll go check out the business.
Great. I think that's about it. These are repetitive, and we know you're just the messenger. So thank you so much for answering all of those questions. Joyce or Glenn, did you have anything to add?
Just thank you so much for your comprehensive presentation today. And the questions and answers were great. So thanks so much. And I'll turn it over to Glenn to do a final closing.
Well, so again, thanks to Nancy, but also thanks to our members and local businesses, not just for tuning in today, but for staying in business and staying in the game. You know, the fact that you're still here trying to get information tells us that that you're still, you know, working very hard to keep your business going, and we appreciate that. You know, many of you have additional questions, we're sure. Please reach out to your local chamber. We'll do the best we can. We can connect you to the county. Nancy shared earlier a link to you know, the public health helpline. So there are resources available. We won't always have an answer for you, but we'll do our very best to connect you to the right resource. The questions that that you have put in today, I think we got to most of them. If we missed any, we'll circle back with Nancy and share those out in a post with the link to today's recording. Again, we appreciate everybody joining with us today. We hope that we move through these years consistently and efficiently and as quickly as we're allowed to. And we know that many of you are doing everything you can to help make that happen, and we appreciate that. Wish you the very best for a great rest of the day today, and look forward to being with you again in the near future. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you.